Hello everyone, I'm Russell Vickers, CEO of Future Mobility Campus Ireland, and I'm here today to talk about the future of mobility and the ecosystem that we're building in Ireland. So I just want to go through my presentation and give you an overview of what's happening here in Ireland. So a little bit about the company. Future FMCI is a not-for-profit foundation. We're funded by Enterprise Ireland and the Department of Business, Enterprise and Innovation. And our purpose is to create essentially a test bed for future mobility in Ireland. The reason we're doing that is because of Ireland has a very strong technical legacy, let's say. A lot of tech companies are based in Ireland. And mobility essentially is technology has to solve a lot of these problems. We think a lot of the industry players that are based in Ireland have a role to play in this. So that was the reason why we created a test bed. We're actually located on the west coast of Ireland in Shannon in County Clare, and I'll go into a bit more detail as we go through the presentation. So just a little bit kind of an overview of why we're actually doing this. So I suppose part of this is my background is previously worked with a company with Jaguar Land Rover, and before that I worked for different semiconductor design companies. But part of this, I suppose, is that part of the work with Jaguar Land Rover, who are based in Shannon also, it was this idea of, that basically, there's so many disruptive forces in play when it comes to transportation at the moment. So, how we're going to move goods, people and goods is changing and is going to change in a huge way. So based on things like autonomous vehicles, connected vehicles, of course, shared mobility, and then of course, electrification, which we're really starting to see take off across Europe. So from our point of view, what we're interested in, as I said, is to create a test bed to allow industry partners and researchers, etc., and also the different government departments to understand these technologies. So what we're building is around emerging technologies and standards, infrastructure, and then creating this collaborative ecosystem. And essentially, FMCI is the platform for that. We have lots of infrastructure we're putting into place. And essentially, we're there to provide the platform for different companies to move forward and research agencies. So just to talk a little bit about our overall purpose, we're here really to support a lot of the regional development projects in the region where we're based. It's also around the sustainability projects that are in Ireland. We're working closely with the Department of Transport in Ireland, also the Road Safety Authority, to really understand how things are going to move forward, whether it's looking at micromobility in cities, or is it looking at autonomy on the roads, et cetera, et cetera. So all of those areas are areas that we're interested in, and climate action obviously is a big piece of that as well. So that's our real purpose. In terms of our partners are obviously really key to how we've got here to where we are today. We've been recently funded in 2019. And we're just about to go live at the end of the year with this test bed. But just to give you an overview of the partners, we have companies like Jaguar Land Rover, who are obviously in the automotive space, General Motors, Valeo, but we also have companies that are more focused on data and the technology, how you apply data, and especially the huge data sets that we're talking about. So companies like Red Hat, Seagate, Cisco, etc. So we have a really great bunch of partners across based both in Ireland and internationally. And we're also working with the local authorities, and we're also working with one of our key partners, which is Shannon Commercial Properties. And the reason why they're the key partner, or one of the key partners, is because of essentially the infrastructure that we're building upon. So to give you an idea of that infrastructure, essentially we're building a micro smart city in a business campus, and we're filling that full of technology, an autonomous parking and charging area, smart connected junctions, connected roadways, and a control center to bring all of that data together. And essentially what this allows us to do, it's a privately owned but a publicly accessible area. And this allows us then to do lots of interesting trials and innovations and do them quite quickly, so that we can really try to figure out how to manage these big data sets, how to manage these products and devices as they start to appear more and more on our networks. So another part there that we're obviously very focused on is the connectivity piece and technologies such as V2X, whether it's the cellular side or the Wi-Fi side with ITS G5. So there's a recently funded project as part of the Sea Roads initiative, and that's to basically put connectivity on 450 kilometers of highway in Ireland. So as part of that work, which is ongoing with TII, who are based in Ireland, we're also working with them closely to understand how we can connect in our test bed, and then basically create create a kind of countrywide test bed essentially for testing all of these new connectivity technologies, which is obviously has a lot of potential in terms of how we really manage these assets on the network. So that's another area that we're really interested in. In terms of kind of just why we're here, I suppose again, the real world test facility is a very important piece of this. The collaborative ecosystem. We really want to create an ecosystem here where we've got all the different startups, SMEs, multinationals, research agencies, universities, etc., all working together to move forward with this. And we think we've got a lot of great players as part of this. The EU leadership piece, I kind of had this in as a throwaway comment for a while, and then Brexit happened, and I couldn't believe it. But there's actually we are probably one of the leading left-hand drive countries now in Europe. There's probably things that we'll have to figure out, especially towards autonomy, on how these vehicles are actually going to get certified, etc. Of course, the business opportunities and then the innovation that comes from that. So they're all the key elements of really what we're looking at. Just to kind of talk about another area that we're also focusing on, and that's around the air piece of this. From our point of view, we're just in the initial phases of the planning and building dedicated drone and UAV testing site beside Shannon Airport. We feel that Shannon Airport is a really, really great facility, great piece of infrastructure that we want to utilize to understand how manned and unmanned vehicles, etc., will really move forward into the future. And that's something that we're really looking at. And then to really understand that then is from all these different use cases, whether it's urban delivery networks for small drones with small payloads. As you can see in this map, this is actually where we're located. And it kind of gives you an idea of what's in the region. So from a regional point of view, we've got Limerick City, we've got Shannon Airport, and we also have Ennistown, which is just north. And we also have this great estuary here. So it really allows us to do a lot of interesting test cases when it comes to drones and UAVs. And this is why we're keen to move this forward. When you look at Ireland from a regional piece as well, then some of the sort of medium range or longer range drones now are going up to something like 80 kilometers. And you can see then from, like, Ireland's obviously quite a small country, but from a coverage point of view, you can see the amount of coverage that you can get here. So for some of the use cases, especially when you look at cost per mile, to say for right now to deliver a package, or something from where we're located in Shannon all the way out to the Aran Islands, or even to the West Clare, for example, the west coast of Ireland, it's actually a pretty arduous road network to get there, and it can take some time. And there's the carbon costs with that. So there's a lot of potential around reducing cost per mile, doing it in a more sustainable way, etc. And this is kind of what the areas that we're looking at, and that we really want to kind of not only just test and certify these things, but then eventually these can become operational. So I have one more slide just to finish up on, just to kind of hopefully put everything into context into people's minds. And this is just to kind of give you an overview of actually what we have. So we have, this is Shannon, this is a drop-down map. The airport boundary is just located to the north of us. This is where we're building our smart city infrastructure. Our control center will be inside that. That's office space, workshops, etc. We'll also have a dedicated robotics testing area, which is essentially a giant car park, but it allows us to do a lot of testing around that. That's where we get access to the highly connected roadway that I was speaking around. And this is where we're looking potentially at a site to put in our UAV takeoff and test landing area. So, and then how we manage the airspace with Shannon and all that, they're discussions that we're currently having with the Irish Aviation Authority. So that's kind of a very condensed version of what we're doing, I suppose. I hope it gives you a good overview. I'm always happy to talk further with people. You can find us online, and you can reach out to us on the different social channels. So thank you for your time. I hope you found it interesting.